Welcome to another Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakeem McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can find my Keaton McGee on the Twitter, X, at Keaton McGee, and IG.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcasts. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including that iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can always find us at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you, but you decide to troll and or do something stupid, silly, or dumb. I've given Lakina full powers to give you fools to bill and be a boot.
Toodles!
But before we begin, we must remind you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live in the living color on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate with the squad and give the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you already have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku television, but you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, or your PC, or your Android, go to the Google Play Store, download that Roku TV app, and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide.
And we'll provide you with some of the best here on Second City Sports in our lunar eclipse way here. There'll be no new lunar eclipse involved here in all of this. But
trying to get my shades.
Yeah, you still get your shades, so of course you got to. You don't want to, you don't want to go blind looking at it. But we'll give you we have a nice little warm up act for you. We'll talk some. We'll talk some. Excuse me, I can't talk today. I'm blaming the Eclipse for that. We're gonna be covering the women's national championship game, and also preview the men's championship game coming up later on tonight. Also, the Cubs get a nice series win against the Dodgers, and while the Sox get their against the Royals, this week against the Royals. Yeah. Also, a great, super cool performance by the Blackhawks in animation against the Stars, but also, unfortunately, they get shut out by the Wild, sadly. And of course, a special show, Old School TV Monday, and a whole lot more. But first, we're going to talk some Bears in a second while we wait for our guests to come on in a couple of minutes. But look, I think Sid, we're about a little over 2 weeks away from the draft, and I'm kind of thinking that, of course, if you saw some of the reports that came out over the weekend, that I guess the Bears are meeting with Marvin Harrison Jr. and it's going to be interesting to see if his name's been thrown around, of course, from Doomsday from Washington. So yeah, what's your kind of synopsis of all this?
Regarding the Bears angle first, I know they got to cover all their bases with meeting with these top prospects. And of course, we talk about this every year, Lakina. It's lion season between now and the start of the NFL draft. And in connecting with the Arizona Cardinals and all this, it's been the belief that they're going with Marvin Harrison Jr. at number 4. Maybe that's what eventually will happen. But I heard some stuff over the weekend, too, that they may be open for business. And then Minnesota trying to move up to get J.J. McCarthy. Who are you going to believe at this time of year? My concern is bringing back to Chicago with the Bears, assuming they pick Caleb Williams at number 1. What are you going to do with the number 9 pick? I've been on that train all along saying that you should trade that number 9 pick, get multiple picks for this year and next year. But if you're Jim Brian Poles, if you believe that you're 1 or 2 players away, I think you'll keep that number 9 pick. If you're not, then you'll trade the number 9 pick, get multiple picks, and still build your roster from there. Now, I said this before, and I'll say it again. If the Bears do this way, as GM Ryan Post said, I believe it was on Pat McAfee's show a couple weeks ago, he's trying to change the way that the Bears do business. And this team has to make the playoffs next year because Matt Eberflus is still a new coach going into year 3, and the pieces were put in place with all the free agent signings and trades during the offseason. So if Ryan Poles believes that they're 1 or 2 players away, I think he'll keep that number 9 pick. But if not, me personally, I still think they need more depth on this roster. You'll trade that number 9 pick and get multiple picks. Now, is this roster good enough to make the playoffs? Yes, but this team still has some work to do.
Yeah, and I think that there's still like a lot, to be, decided here. And I think there's still like you gotta yeah, they still gotta find an old lineman. They gotta find
Mhm.
another pass rusher. You can't have Montez Sweat doing all the work by himself. And I just think that the Bears are kind of like, look, if they are 1 or 2 players away, it'll be interesting to see, do they trade the number 9 pick and trade back and get more picks, because they only got 5 picks now. So it'll be interesting to see if they decide to kind of go that route and you know see if they can kind of get that drafting going and such. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But yeah, we still, like you said, it's going to be a lot before we find out what will happen for sure.
And getting ready to join us right now, he's a friend of the show. He covers the Bears for Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. You can hear him as a fill-in host throughout the weekend, the weekends on that same station. He is the one, the only, the multi-talented Mr. Mark Grote. Mark, welcome back to the show, my friend.
What's going on, guys? Sydney, Lakina, good to see you guys. You guys are looking great, sounding great, all of that.
Oh, thank you. I see you're in your little private office there.
Yes, I'm putting on my hat right now because I'm looking at myself in the screen and I'm not happy with the hair situation. So the hat is being placed on. Yes, I'm in a new place as of a few months ago. And it's funny that you mentioned that, Sydney, because my sister-in-law, Priscilla, has been helping me actually, she's done everything inside of this apartment in terms of the interior. Like, she doesn't trust me to do stuff. So she basically put this shelf together. She told me that she hates the way it's decorated. She's coming over one of these days this week. She says it looks too empty. It looks ridiculous. So it's a bone of contention right now.
But it's good to have somebody that kind of has your back and kind of help you out with the decorating part. That's
absolutely. No, I don't take it for granted. Like she's right. I just be the guy living in a spacious place with no decorations, no pictures, just a television and a remote. And that's it. And she's like, nope, you need more than that. I'm coming over. So
gotta accessorize, right?
Gotta accessorize.
Let's get back to business here, Mark. With the draft being just over 2 weeks away, I said that we're talking before you came on. What do you think the Bears will do for that? Well, we know that assuming Caleb Williams will be the number 1 pick, Bears will take him there. But what about the number 9 pick? Do they trade back? Do they get Doomsday or Harrison Jr.? I know they're meeting him later this week. Do they? What's your synopsis of that?
It's tough, Lakina, because it really, without knowing who they have fallen in love with, other than Caleb Williams, as you mentioned, have they zeroed in on Rome Odunze? Is Malik Neighbors actually their guy? Harrison Jr. getting the visit today, as a matter of fact. So it's really difficult to say. I think that it would probably make a lot of sense for them to trade down, considering the fact that as we sit here and speak right now, the Bears only have 4 picks in the draft. And as good as some of the things that they have done in the offseason via trade, via free agency, this team still needs more players, more bodies, more talented bodies to compete in a division where you have at least 2 teams that are better than you.
I want to get your take, Mark, on how GM Ryan Poles in particular has handled this whole offseason, from free agency to the Justin Fields trade, and of course to the meetings that they took with Caleb Williams last week. So far, Ryan Poles is playing it close to his chest, and I know he was on, I believe, the Pat McAfee show a couple of weeks ago, saying that he wanted to change the way the Bears did business. What I'm not going to ask you what grade do you give him, but give us your take on how he's handled it publicly so far throughout this offseason.
You talking about Ryan Poles, how he's handled
yes.
it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think Ryan Poles has done a pretty good job. I mean, who would have ever thought that we would have actually, I guess it's not completely inconceivable considering the Bears, but I'm thinking about how amazing it is that you have a GM that has had to, and I'm using air quotes, have the number 1 pick 2 years in a row. So he has gone to the combine. He has gone through 2 off seasons now where he has been tasked with doing something with the number 1 overall pick. So I think in part to answer your question, he has gotten even better at dealing with it and, holding those cards as close to his vest as he possibly can. I also think that Ryan Poles has a way of being pretty as transparent as he can. Because I don't think he feels like such a genuine guy who wants to tell the truth. And we understand that there's not everything that you can give away. But, I think back to, when we had access to him at the combine and he was very honest about what he was doing with Jalen Johnson. And he was honest in answering questions about Caleb Williams because we asked him questions about Caleb Williams and he gave very thorough answers. But, as far as how he's handled this offseason, I think he's been pretty on top of things. I wasn't blown away necessarily by any of the signings that he's made in this offseason. I think obviously DeAndre Swift is nice. We all know him, but it's not like a superstar or anything like that. Ryan Bates, the guard or center, Coleman Shelton, the center that they signed, Gerald Everett, the tight end. These are all nice signings. And then so far the masterpiece of his offseason, I think, has been the Keenan Allen trading for him and placing him on this team just to make it even more comfortable for Caleb Williams.
Do you think he could have gotten more for Justin Fields?
Well, could he have added more for Justin Fields? Could he have done all this for Fields?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, exactly.
If Fields had been here, I think that's the direction he would have gone. I don't think that Ryan Poles was ever anti Justin Fields, where he wasn't going to build around him if he was going to be here. But Ryan Poles made a decision. And that was to move on from Justin Fields. And look, trust me, whoever the quarterback was going to be or is going to be, this was going to be the plan going into the season. That's why I like to go back looking at the first question about number 9 and who they're going to take. If you ask me who I want, as we're sitting here right now, and this could change tomorrow. It's a fluid situation, ladies and gentlemen. Stick with wide receiver. Stick with that. The Bears have a very good defense, and that can get better. And you still have ways to make that defense better without using the number 9 pick. So I think that you should continue to focus on making an offense that matches your defense for once. In limited times where that actually has occurred in the Chicago Bears franchise.
We're hanging out with our guy Mike Grote, the Chicago Bears reporter from Chicago Sports Radio 670 The Score. He's hanging out here with us on the Monday edition of Second City Sports on Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you. Mark, let's stick with the quarterback situation. Presumably it's going to be Caleb Williams with that number 1 pick 2 weeks from now. Give us your take about the Bears fan divide leading up to that Justin Fields trade. Me personally, I'm a Justin Fields guy, and I told Lakina, I watched Caleb Williams at least 3 or 4 games from start to finish last year. Was he the best quarterback in college football? Yes, but in my opinion, and this term didn't come out until after the season, that he was a generational talent. I don't know where people got that from locally and or nationally. What did you think about the division amongst Bears fans? I'll be honest, I haven't seen a division within the fan base in this fan base in a long, long time.
Yeah, it was something, man. I don't think I've ever been a part of something like that either. And being sort of center stage for it, being that I work at it, and you guys too, doing what you do. It's it got crazy, and it put us all in a I happened to be on the side of it was time to move on from Justin Fields, and I'm sold on Caleb Williams. I'm with you, Sydney. In my work, I probably never would have said, "Oh God, this guy is generational." I think he's great, but I think using generational is just so dangerous. That's like calling somebody an MVP candidate. It's crazy to do that. I love it for the Bears' sake, and hopefully he is. But I do think that that's a little bit crazy. But here's what really bugged me throughout the whole debate. And it's great that people were in support of Justin Fields, and they should be. Absolutely. Like in the two sides, what I got frustrated with throughout the whole process was if you thought that it was time, like again, in my case, I thought, and it was pretty consistent with my reports on the score, that it was time to move on from Justin Fields. And I just, even from since training camp, I was seeing things that I was seeing in the previous training camps for Justin Fields. So I had a front row seat for all of this. And what gets frustrating is if you are one that is thinking it's time to move on from Justin Fields, you are a hater of Justin Fields, and it puts you in this position where people think you hate Justin Fields. And, you know, you're bashing this guy for no. That was never the case. It was just that it, to me, was the next logical step. You know, and I've been there throughout the season. So I don't think I've ever seen anything like it. And I actually get it too. I mean, this is a guy that Justin Fields was one of theirs. He was a guy that was moved up to get this guy. He represented something that seemed more hopeful than Mitch Trubisky. He represented something that seemed more hopeful than Jay Cutler. You know, I would put those three right now in the triumvirate of big shots the Bears have taken. And there's no doubt that Justin Fields, when he was drafted, I don't think I've ever felt in my life, I'm 52, I don't think I've ever felt, no, I haven't. I've never felt more excitement for a Bears acquisition in my life. And, you know, Justin Fields was it. It was huge for Mitch Trubisky. It was massive for Jay Cutler when he came here. Trust me, like that stuff wasn't small. This was bigger for some reason. Everybody wanted that to work, and they wanted it to work right down to the last second until it didn't work.
Just unfortunate there. Let's talk about pass rushers for a second, Mark, because they needed a comment to Montez Sweat. I mean, I know there's some names that are being thrown around. Jared Verse from Florida State, he's a monster in the edge there. Dallas Turner from Alabama. Letu, I think I got his name right. I haven't been able to do it for like 3 years. He's at UCLA, but
Good enough.
Right. So who do you think they should go for? I mean, who do you think best fits this scheme that Eberflus wants to implement?
I've been pretty consistent. I still have not moved off of Dallas Turner. I just really like watching his tape and what he could bring in a 4-3 defense with the Bears. So Dallas Turner, Alabama, has been my guy. I would probably put Jared Verse number 2 if I'm going through my rankings in that group. Jared Verse, Florida State, very good. And then those last two guys, Chop Robinson is somebody who I don't think I think he's probably more towards the end of the first round. But the Bears could trade down. You never know, as we've already discussed. And then Atu, I think he's an interesting guy. You know, he had a devastating injury and he was down for a while. It looked like he wasn't going to be able to play again. And he's played the last couple of years. So, I think that Robinson and Atu are a little bit behind Dallas Turner and Jared Verse. But again, we just don't know who Ryan Poles and his staff have targeted and fallen in love with. So it could be anybody, but I like Dallas Turner.
Let's go back to the number 9 pick, Mark. Assuming that the Bears and Ryan Poles will keep that pick, and assuming that they select the wide receiver, Romeo Duse, which I like personally out of Washington. I think he's the second best wide receiver in this draft next to Marvin Harrison Jr. But you got Brock Bowers, the tight end out of Georgia. You still have Brian Thomas out of LSU. Who would you select, assuming that the wide receiver position is available at number 9? Who would you select, which is Oduse or somebody else?
Yeah, no, it's actually funny you mentioned the tight end Brock Bowers, because he was the guy that I did a mock draft of way back. It was in February, and he was the guy that I had the Bears taking. I had them trading down to the Raiders at 13, and then at 13, the Bears would snag the tight end Brock Bowers. So I still do like him. I understand, that you have plenty of resources piled up in the tight end position already, but I in the name of best player available, like if that guy is there, I wouldn't necessarily just skip past him because you brought in a tight end in Gerald Everett and you paid $50 million to Cole Kmet. No shame in stacking a position group and making that position group excellent and helping it to lead your team. So I still got eyes on Brock Bowers. At number 9, if I had my choice for a receiver, it's really tough between Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze. I feel like Malik Neighbors is maybe your more explosive guy, but Rome Odunze could be a little bit more complete, and he also gives you the height at 6'3", 215, a big guy. And then, for whatever it's worth, if we're really talking about, teams always hit you over the head with character, you got to have character. I think Rome Odunze fits that. Not that Neighbors has a character issue, or Marvin Harrison Jr. for that matter. And I don't know if we're including him in this particular conversation, but Odunze is quite a well-rounded human being. I had a chance to talk to him at the Combine, probably one of my favorite people that I've talked to in the last couple of years. So that part always matters to me. I get it. It doesn't always matter to fans. You just want the guy that's great on the field.
Yeah, and I've heard him in interviews. He is a very engaging young man. And another name that's being floated around, perhaps maybe for the Bears, is Tavontre Sweat. No relation to Montez Sweat, I don't think, but apparently, I guess he got into got a little bit of legal trouble over the weekend, so that might deter some teams a little bit. But I mean, outside of some of the the main, what are the holes that the Bears still have to fill up?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think one of the areas for sure is, there's two areas, and I guess it's the lines. I would say let's just start with offensive line, since we really haven't talked about them much so far. How in love are they at this point with? Well, actually, that's a dumb way to put it, because we know that Ryan Poles loves Braxton Jones. I mean, this is a guy, it's his personal project. He drafted him 5th and threw him in as a starter. Not even Braxton Jones. I'll never forget Braxton Jones when a couple of years ago we were indoors at the Walter Payton Center, and all of a sudden we're looking down, and there's in these very light, do very little practices, but there was Braxton Jones playing left tackle, and we're all like, whoa, what's going on here? And Braxton Jones was even like, whoa, what's going on here? So, he didn't even know he would be starting at any point. So, but he's been fine, but he has not been great at that position. So I think that it's not out of the realm of possibility that if there is a tackle available, the Bears would take a tackle, and it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if Braxton Jones was your swing tackle or your backup guy, being that you have done all right on the other side. So that's the position that I'm looking at. They've done a pretty good job of, I still don't know what they're doing at center, to be honest with you, on the offensive side. I guess Coleman Shelton or Ryan Bates is the center, but that didn't move me too much. So, I'll be curious as to see what they do. And then on the defensive line, I mean, how are they still down with Gervon Dexter and Zach Pickens to eventually one of those guys take over the 3 technique spot? I definitely think that they are. But that is a position, because you did lose Justin Jones. Yeah, I mean, I think you still need help on that defensive line. We already mentioned the defensive end position, but I think even on the defensive line, interior-wise, you could still use some more strength, if nothing else, to play rotationally.
Let's go back to the office, Mark, and you brought up his name earlier, Keenan Allen. Of course, the Los Angeles Chargers traded him as part of their salary cap cuts, and the Bears, I believe, sent them a 4th-round pick. But I've been saying this on the show for years, so Lakina knows this, that Keenan Allen is one of the best wide receivers in the league, but unfortunately injuries has slowed him down the last few years. How much of the injury factor are you worried about Mr. Allen coming into the 2024 season, as now we playing a 17-game schedule?
Well, I mean, I think he played 13 games last year, I want to say. I think if you can, I'll set the number right there. I'd be happy if you got 13 games and 1,300. Like last year, he had over 1,300 yards in 13 games. So, or what was it, 1,400, something like that?
Yeah.
So, so you can get, if I can get that kind of production out of him, I'd allow him. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, I guess you have to always build in injuries with guys. And if you can get 13, 14 games out of Keenan Allen, then I'd be happy with it. That's also part of why I think that the Bears need to get a receiver somewhere in this draft that can be part of the future, because of the injury factor, the veteran age, and Keenan Allen, as you mentioned, Sydney, but also the fact that you don't know how long Keenan Allen's going to be around with the Bears. It's still possible they get a nice extension done, and he could be around for the next 2 or 3 years, probably throw an option in there at some point in time. But, he's older, and he's probably not part of the core in the next 3-4 years of this team, and hopefully the Caleb Williams era. So I just think that you have to have a plan for him. But I think I'm comfortable with that guy there. I mean, I guess it's opportunity cost that the guy might miss a game or two.
Yeah, I think Bears fans should be prepared for that. Now let's switch gears and talk some Cubs real quick, Mark,
Sure.
because they got a nice series win against the Dodgers. I mean, that's the bats were really well. Saya's been hitting the ball very well. So is Morel, Hap, Dansby hit a home run right off that long rain delay. What do you think the ceiling is for the Cubs this year? I mean, I know it's between them and the Cardinals for the NL Central.
Yeah, I mean, what a great start. That's all I could say right now. I mean, 6-3. The most impressive thing about what the Cubs are doing right now is scoring runs in the cold when they need it badly, because with this great start, they've done it with essentially without their ace pitcher Justin Steele, without their second or third best pitcher in Jamison Tyone. So they scored 18 runs in 3 games at cold, nasty Wrigley Field against the Dodgers. They scored 26 runs against a bad Colorado unit at Wrigley Field in the cold and the nasty. And that stuff covers up suspect starting pitching, and just only suspect for the Cubs because of the fact that they have injuries. So I think that that's been a pretty incredible part of what they have done. And so what does it all mean? I don't know. I think they look like a pretty good ball club. We're going to find out a little bit more about them right now, because this is a pretty big road trip that they have. They got a 9-game West Coast swing starting tonight. We're going to see San Diego and Arizona and Seattle, all teams that are underachieving so far, mind you, which is a weird thing to say this early in the season. But all those teams are like 2 or 3 games under 500, and we know Arizona, how good they are. So we'll find a little bit out about them. But, man, yeah, Seiya Suzuki has been great to start the season. One of their new acquisitions, Michael Busch, was terrific in that series against the Dodgers. So a lot of good things coming up right now. I just hope that Craig Counsell can continue, because there's going to be bumps here without these 2 starting pitchers. Like, they've done a really good job of managing life without them, and that's exactly what Craig Counsell literally does, manages the situation. But there's going to be some bumps along the way with them not having those 2 starting pitchers, and we're just going to have to wait to see how the Cubs handle that as a collective.
Last moment or two with our guy Mark Grote from Chicago Sports Radio 670. The Score. He's hanging out here with us on Second City Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina here, hanging out here with you. Mark, yesterday the women's college basketball season came to the end. South Carolina, 38-0 head coach Dawn Staley wins her 3rd national championship. Of course, the hype was surrounding Caitlin Clark was real over the last 2 years, bigger this year since she reached the championship game once again. What do you think this will do not only to the college game going forward, even though Caitlin Clark will be playing in the WNBA starting this year, but what do you think this momentum will do for college basketball, women's college basketball going forward in the WNBA?
I don't know. I'm fascinated to see. I'm fascinated to know if what Caitlin Clark has done correlates directly into more eyeballs either on college basketball or on her in the WNBA, and then people subsequently catch on to the WNBA and say, oh, this is all good. I think that's possible. I think that realistically, what the league, whether it's the WNBA or women's college basketball, I think that they are going to be, and to some degree, just like the men's sports, they are going to continue to need superstars like Caitlin Clark to drive the product. Now, I understand that she is extraordinary. She is historic, unprecedented in some of the things that she has done at the level. But, one of the parts about this, too, is that Caitlin Clark, like so many other big-time athletes that have changed the game before her, like Tiger Woods, or in this town, like if you want to just micro it to Chicago, like what Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves did, getting kids into hockey, hopefully Caitlin Clark will have that same effect on young girls right now that are watching, girls that are 9 and 10 years old that want to be the next Caitlin Clark, So could that boost the product? I think of Steph Curry. All those kids all of a sudden wanted to be jacking up threes. Well, Caitlin Clark probably was influenced by Steph Curry. So it'll be interesting to see what effect Caitlin Clark has on 9 and 10-year-olds. And in the future, do we see a product in college basketball on the women's side, or even in the WNBA 5-10 years down the road, as opposed to now? Because I think, unfortunately, right now, you're just going to need another person like that, or it will probably just go back to the way it was for the WNBA and for college sports. Unfortunately, I just think that's a reality here.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. Tell real quick, tell folks about the Daily Score, what you do for the Score's YouTube page. I listen to it all as much as I can, and during the morning, you do a great job. And tell people what's it about.
Well, thank you for that, Lakina. I appreciate the interest. I appreciate you listening or watching. Number one, if you ever watch the Daily Score, you'll get this background. You'll get this right here. All that comes with it, or nothing that comes with it, as my sister-in-law would say. But no, the Daily Score is a podcast that I do most days during the week. And it is a 10-minute maximum podcast. That's what it's supposed to be in my contract. Sometimes we go less, sometimes we go more, but it's an easy to take in podcast about whatever I want to talk about in Chicago sports. Like there's one up and running right now on the Chicago Cubs. It's 8 minutes of everything that I thought about from the weekend series with the Dodgers. Ton of Bears shows that I do, but it's whatever I'm feeling every day. And like I said, it's short, easy, compact. It's the Daily Score.
All right, we will definitely support and tell our listeners and viewers about that. Mark, as always, thank you very much for joining us here on the program today. Great job, much continued success. Before we let you go, tell people where can they find you on social media.
Absolutely. Yeah, you could find me on Twitter. I am at Mark Grote Sports. I am on Instagram if you want to hang out there. I'm not nearly as sportsy on Instagram, Mark_Grote, if you want to rock there. And I think that's it. The Daily Score. That's it. Find me, Love me, hold me.
No TikTok, correct?
What's that?
Oh.
No TikTok.
No, not TikTok.
Yeah,
no TikTok.
Hey, I might as well have TikTok though. Like just going through my stories on Instagram, like I get like everything sent to me there. So, but no, I have not. I think I have gladly. I have aged out of TikTok, so I don't. That's my excuse anyway. I don't have to go there. I'm too old.
Same here.
Right.
Same way. Oh, Mark, this has been so much fun as always. Thank you so much. We'll definitely try to get you back on before the season starts, and could continue the great work. And next couple weeks should be very interesting for the Bears and the NFL draft. So thanks, Mark.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lakina and Sydney. Have a great day. Talk to you guys soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
All right.
Okay, that's one of our favorites. Always fun when we have him on, Sid. And
Yes.
he makes it always fun and interesting.
Yeah, that's what we try to do here on Second City Sports. That's why you love us, and we bring the guests on that you want to hear from, and we make things very interesting. Nothing bland and boring. That ain't us. Excuse my profanation, but that's not us.
Never. So we're going to tell off a big take a break. Of course, we're going to recap that women's championship game and preview the men's and some big coaching news for both men's and women's top programs. So got a lot to talk about. We're QT to College Hardball Talk. Lakina McGee, City Brown, Second City Sports, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Monday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Kenny McGee on the Twitter, X, like he was going on the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left for this extravaganza. We call it Sports Talk Radio Show. So if you have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
Okay, Sid. This is our March Madness, and as we're finishing things up here, we'll talk about the men's championship game between UConn and Purdue and UConn in just a little bit. But first, Sid, South Carolina beat Iowa to go undefeated. Just the 10th time that's happened. They're the 5th team to do it. 87-75 over Iowa, and consider ESPN kind of pull out all the stops here for the women's national championship game. Camila Cardoso, who ended up being the most outstanding player for the women, had 15 points, 12 boards, and 3 blocks and 2 assists. She ended up being the most outstanding player. And make sure I gotta get her name right because I haven't been able to say her name right. Tahina Pow had this is how she says her name. I'm not like making fun of her name. This is how she says it. She had 14 points and just a really great overall team win. But it was probably like freshman Tessa Johnson who had 19 points off the bench. She kind of led the way for South Carolina in that win. They were down, I think, about 12-0 to Iowa. Caitlin Carter ended up having 30 points in a losing effort, but I'll let you have the floor in a second, but just want to say this, that it was really the bench score that kind of killed Iowa because the Gamecocks bench outscored Iowa's bench by like 32 points. That's been the story all season long. It was like I said, the Tessa Johnson's 19 points that kind of led the way there.
Yeah, Tessa Johnson, in my opinion, was the MVP for the South Carolina Gamecocks yesterday. You mentioned with 19 points, including 3 of 6 shooting from downtown, 7 of 11 overall. And first of all, congratulations to head coach Don Staley. And with her 3rd national title as head coach, she definitely deserves it. I don't know if you caught her post a post game interview with Holly Rowe of ESPN, and I tweeted it out yesterday. If that wasn't real emotion or something to along those lines, and I don't know what it is, but you could tell that that title meant the world to her because remember, Lakina, the whole starting five was very different last year than the one that she had this go around. And I don't know if you caught this as well. Congrats to Aaliyah Boston. She was part of that team last year, even though she didn't win it. She was standing behind Coach Staley, consoling her while she was crying yesterday before gathering herself together to do the post game interview. So the support that Coach Don Staley received, I was pretty proud yesterday. So I know most of America wanted their quote unquote sweetheart to win, i.e., Caitlin Clark. Like I said before, no shade to Caitlin Clark. You know, she deserves everything she's gotten so far. And she'll get more as she starts her WNBA career in a couple of months. But and shout out to Don Staley too for giving her props once they received the title at the end of the game yesterday as well. So that was a class act from Coach Don Staley's part. Well, for the actual game, Lakina, South Carolina is almost the same script like they played on last Friday in the national semifinal game against NC State. They were down by 1.5. Whatever Coach Staley said, it resonated with her group. They turned it around in that second half, and they blew out NC State yesterday. It was much tougher, but you could tell they got their game going. It was more of a dominant performance, even though Iowa tried to come back in that fourth quarter. Tessa Johnson led the way for South Carolina to take home the title.
And I want to give a shout out to Raven Johnson because if people don't remember, last year's national semifinal game with Aaliyah Boston was on that squad when she was a starting National Player of the Year there. It was, Caitlin Clark, she shot that three over Johnson, and she said that she kept the picture of that. She actually even said that was like the wallpaper on her phone for a little bit. And she said this is their revenge tour. Her and Cardoso both said this was definitely their revenge tour. And look, they had that, Cardoso had that, that big 3 against Tennessee, in which I think still Kelly Harper's face. We'll get to that in a second. But I think, look, I really think that they kind of took it personally that, look, there's no shade to her, to Caitlin Clark herself. I mean, she didn't ask for the attention. She didn't push for it or nothing like that. It's really the media and the narratives and everything else. And like I said earlier, this is only the 10th time. The first is 2016 when Brianna Stewart and Maya Moore did this at UConn. They went undefeated. This should have gotten more praise. And even this morning, yes, I'm calling you guys out at Get Up, Greeny. Most of the time they talk about was Caitlin Clark. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, and look, I'm the last person I want to bring race into anything, but you gotta wonder. You would be naive to say that some of this wasn't racial. Let's be real here, but. Look, I think they should get their props. I'm talking about South Carolina. The fact that Don Staley, who also is now the first Black coach to have to win 3 national championships on the women's side, well, on the men's side either as well. They should get their flowers. Her, Cardoso, who's going to be a big star in WNBA, Raven Johnson, Tessa Johnson. She'll be back next year because she's only a freshman. Also, I think Raven Johnson's going to be back as well too. So, yeah, I think Grote I think Mark said it, the previous segment that. There needs to be kind of like hopefully that maybe the women's game can sustain all this, but I just want to kind of throw that out there. Just say it.
Yeah, here's the thing, and I know we're gonna bring this up now that I heard our guy Nick Hamilton from Nightcast Media. He's out there in Los Angeles. We had him on the show a few years ago. He talked about on his Instagram live story yesterday about. He respects Caitlin Clark, but he doesn't think that she's the GOAT. And I know there's a silly debate about whether she's the GOAT or not. She is in my opinion, in terms of breaking those scoring records. But I think we as fans, I try not to do this now since I'm older, but we as fans get caught up in pundits too, get caught up by how many championships you have. Is it part of the resume? Yes, but it's not the end all be all. If championships were attained so easily, everybody would have one. And that's why it makes it so hard. But for the record stage that Caitlin Clark has broken, and someone will probably be sealed for a while, she is the GOAT. And she's the it person right now, yes. But I don't think just because she didn't win a title, it doesn't take away from her greatness. We call now. I don't want to do the whole men's thing, but just to bring an example to the NBA, Charles Barkley and Karl Malone, you can throw Kevin McHale in there too, even though he has the titles, but you could argue in Tim Duncan, he has multiple titles too. But you could bring those four players that I just mentioned. Fair enough to say those are the four top players that power force to ever play the game, correct?
Yeah.
Now, Malone and Barkley did play in the NBA final. Karl Malone 2, Barkley 1. Even though they ran into Michael Jordan, does it make them less great? No.
Well, no, and I think that, and look, I don't think no one's saying that she's not the GOAT. I'm talking about, Caitlyn isn't, but I think what some people are saying, I think Nick was saying it too on his Instagram, that look at Cheryl Miller. She has 2 titles to her resume. And I think, Candace Parker, she has 2 national titles. Cheryl Swoops, I mean, I know people want to I know she's kind of has thrown some shade at Caitlyn's way in the last couple of months. But remember, she single-handedly led her Lady Red Raiders, Texas Tech, to a national title over 31 years ago. So I think, unfortunately, if you want to bring out another sport, you want to say Dan Marino because he didn't get another chance to win a title and whatever. But I just think that the attention part of it is what kind of irking some folks, and that's really what gets it for some people. And I don't think it's her per se. And like I said, she's not doing it. That's what everyone else is doing it. So look, should she get, she still get praised for doing everything she get to get more, like Mark said, get more, young girls to, to shoot and whatnot. Like I said, she probably modeled her game after Steph Curry. So, with the jacking up threes and whatnot, but she's also a great passer. But I think also basketball is a team game. And unfortunately, look, now Cardoso now has 2 national championships to her credit. And so, like I said, it's interesting because it's always an interesting debate of, okay, is this person great because they didn't win a title? But I think you kind of look outside of that and make it seem like, yeah, you know what? It's just a hard argument to kind of on both sides.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina here with you, talking women's college basketball. Congratulations to the ladies South Carolina Gamecocks for winning their national championship of 2024, defeating Iowa 87-75. Lakina, we asked Mark about this. I'll ask you, where does this momentum go from here? I want to start with the college game first. I know that where's the superstars at? I can name 2 off the top of my head. Paige Beckers, I believe she'll be back next year for UConn. We know Juju Watkins is a freshman. She'll be back next year for US. I'm looking forward to see her more now since USC is coming to the Big Ten as a school. But outside of those 2, do we have any more superstars that are up and on the horizon that fans should be looking forward to next year in women's college basketball?
Why, I think Tessa Johnson, like we just named, she's also a freshman. She was a big reason why South Carolina was able to hold off Iowa. I know UCLA has a couple top prospects coming up. So I think the women's game on the college side is in good hands. Paige Beckers did say a couple months ago she is coming back. She's going to use that last year of eligibility that she has. And I think, look, for me, I think this is gonna be how they market their players. I know people say, well, the men, they don't market their guys. Well, we're gonna talk about that the men's side in a little bit here. But I think, look, you got to be careful. I know everyone's saying, hey, support the WNBA, support women's college basketball. But I think the problem is going to be is that Kayla's going to end up going to a small market. It would be better if it was here in Chicago playing for the Sky or the Sparks or with the Liberty. Marketing is going to be interesting to see how they do this, because are people going to, are more folks going to be, clamoring to watch her play? But yeah, I've been hearing this for the last 15 years with the women's soccer team, not to bring a different sport, but women's soccer team. Yes, they got the WSL and the Rays have been okay, but it's still not getting the kind of coverage that some people say it should be getting. So the support of it is going to be important. And next year, since, Kayla's going to be gone, will people be watching the USCs, the UConns, Tennessee? We'll get to that. They got a new coach. We'll get to that in a second. But we got UCLA. They're going. UCLA are going to the Big Ten. We'll see where Texas is. We'll see. About Duke next year. So there's a lot more widespread. The talent's more widespread in women's hoops, but the problem is that the support just isn't there, and I think that's a problem.
Here's a couple of things I want to bring up. The marketing. I want to put this on the WNBA. With Caitlin Clark, assuming she's going to be picked around this time next Monday by the Indiana Fever. How many games that she's going are they going to put on national TV, i.e. ESPN and i.e. on ABC on Saturday and Sunday afternoons? Of course, the WNBA, those that don't know, they play during the late spring and in the summertime, because the only thing you're going up against is baseball. We know baseball is just like the NHL. It's a regional sport during the regular season, the way it's marketed until the playoffs. But how many games you going to put Caitlin Clark on ESPN and ABC? And number two, let's be real here. I know in Chicago, attendance has been up and down because this guy hasn't been good since their championship a couple of years ago. But let's be honest here, Lakina, most of those arenas that those other WNBA teams play in with between 5 and 10,000, they're not selling out. And if the Indiana Fever come into town, of course, assuming that Caitlin Clark's not injured, they'll sell out those places. But with the impact of Caitlin Clark and, like you said, Cardoso with South Carolina next, will it make some of those WNBA teams go back to play in some of those NBA arenas? That's my question.
Yeah, you don't want to start, especially if the team isn't very good, if the Fever aren't very good, you're not going to want to see Caitlin Clark. So, yeah, it's one of those things where it's always tricky because you want to go from 0 to 100 to 1,000. You got to build it up, and I know people say, "Well, build up, build up." Well, they've been building for like the last almost over 20 years now, and nothing really. We were over 30 years, I should say, for WNBA, and it's still not. You've had various teams go by. I look at Cheryl Swoops and Cynthia Cooper, who played together at USC, by the way. I think Lisa Leslie and Candace Parker and Kelsey Plum, and who, look, she broke the record, but now she's got 2 WNBA titles now to her credit as well. She didn't get a chance to win one when she was at Washington for on the college side. So look, if Caitlin Clark wins a couple of WNBA titles, no one's really going to care. But I think also too, it's still going to be a big state that she went over on the national championship front.
Before we move over to the men's game, I want to give props to Dawn Staley because she gave props to the ESPN coverage of the women's tournament. I know they brought it in the forefront in the 90s when they got the contract and all that. But as far as the coverage for this weekend for the women's Final Four, they did a tremendous job. Elle Duncan, I forgot who the coach, the former coach who was on the panel yesterday.
Carolyn
you can tell
Peck.
me in a sec. Thank you. She did an outstanding job. Of course, my girl Shanae did a great job. And of course, Andrea Carter did a great job. Of course, as I mentioned, Leah Boston earlier, she was a guest analyst during the coverage yesterday. Those ladies that I mentioned, they should be on the coverage going forward. And like I said, Dawn Staley gave them props in one of her pressers over the weekend. So I think that coverage should stay the way it is. And hopefully, like I said, with the WNBA early with Caitlin Clark, hopefully, and I know ESPN has done this the last couple years, do the women's version of the college game days on Sundays because most of the women's games are being played on Sundays, some Saturdays too, but mostly on Sundays. Hopefully, they can expand that a little bit next year.
Yeah, well, Elle is a great host. We see her from all her days at Nesson. She's terrific. Carolyn Peck's she has a national championship to her name, the first Black woman to win a championship at Purdue. She won at Purdue years ago. Shanae, I can't say her last. I never could say her last name, but she went to Stanford, so she's super smart. Aaliyah Boston is showing that she does have a future in this business whenever she does retire from the WNBA. And look, Andrea Carr is becoming a rising star. Remember, she's done some of the men's college game day as well. So yeah. They did a great job, and they got a lot of the top players from South Carolina on that set. 10 people on that set. I mean, the fact they were able to do that, I think that was remarkable as well. So hopefully, keep that coverage going because they did a really good job. They were very fair, unlike other places. We won't go there. Even Leah Boston, she said, look, they got to get it going. South Carolina Gamecocks, and they did get it going. So, but speaking of Andrea's alma mater, she went to Tennessee. They actually now have a new women's head coach. Her name is Kim Caldwell. Now, if her name doesn't sound familiar, she did lead Marshall to their first NCAA tournament bid in since '97. They actually gave Vod Tech all they could handle. They went outside the tree, though. She's a very accomplished D2 player. She actually led Glenville State, her alma mater, to a national championship in the D2 level just a couple of years ago. So she's got the pedigree, she's got the resume. They went outside the Pat Summit tree, so we'll see how that goes.
Didn't I tell you they should do that a couple weeks ago?
You did, and they did. So
look what's happened.
Yeah, I mean, look. Hopefully, they give her some time. And look, she's only 34, so it sounds like they're investing in her, and hopefully, look, like we've been saying, look, it's great to see South Carolina, USC back on top after many years. UConn still UConn. We'll see where Iowa is next year. But I think women's basketball is even better with Tennessee's up there because they were one of the teams that kind of got it going, especially with God rest his whole late great Pat Summitt. So hopefully Coach Caldwell can get Tennessee back to the promised land.
Just like the men's programs we talk about with Duke, North Carolina, Kansas. You need those programs to be relevant for casual fans to start watching your sport. Like you said, the same thing goes for the women's top programs in the country.
You listen to Second C Sports on Sports Chicago. Lakina McGee, City Brown with you. If you go a little bit over, after the top, that's okay. But we got to talk about the men's matchup real quick. Of course, you got Purdue and UConn, two of the top teams. Basically all season long. I think the lowest Purdue was 4, and I think UConn was like 3. That was their lowest ranking. So you got the two top teams. You got two 7'2" plus guys, and Donovan Clingan and of course Zach Edey playing each other for the first time. I think that's the first time it's happened since Ewing and Akeem did it all the way back, 40 years ago.
Yeah, when we were kids.
Yeah, for George got the best of Houston, and that I think the anniversary just happened a couple of days ago on Thursday or Friday. But what do you think is going to be the key here in this game tonight?
I want to see how UConn defends Zach Edey. Will they come at him with the waves of double teams, or will they let Coughlin play Edey one-on-one the majority of the time? I think that's going to be the number one key. And the other key is I like UConn, the way they play team basketball. I think they're, in my opinion, a little bit more athletic than Purdue. My guy Newton from UConn, I want to see him step up tonight. I think it's going to come down to how they defend Zach Edey and who shoots it the best from the outside.
Excuse me. And I think Purdue, if you can kind of slow down the tempo, because UConn's going to want to play very fast. So you're gonna if you're Purdue and if you're Matt Penny, you're gonna want to try and see if you can kind of slow down Clingan and slow down Stephen Kessa, who was a big part of why they were able to beat Alabama on Saturday. And it's gonna be interesting. You got Tristan Newton. I keep getting his name wrong. Tristan Newton, I should say. I'm sorry. I keep getting his first name wrong for some reason. I'm thinking about another guy. Cam Spencer. I mean, those are a couple of holdovers. Those are a few of the holdovers from last year's team. And I think they want to win that back-to-back championships with basically a whole new squad. But Purdue, they got a lot to play for too. This is their first appearance in the championship game since 1969. I don't even think Matt Painter was even born yet. So that's how long it's been. Right. I mean, that's how long it's been. So guys like Braden Smith and Lance Jones, I mean, those guys are going to be the key to kind of get a supporting cast. If Edey gets double or triple team, one of those guys or two of those guys probably have to step up to kind of get here. So I expect this to be kind of a back and forth game, and I really think that. Could we see a buzzer beater, perhaps? Maybe, because we haven't had one. I think the anniversary of the Chris Jenkins one against Villanova against North Carolina, which is a few days ago. So it'll be interesting to see if it comes down to that, whoever has the ball last, if it's still close.
Yeah, like I said, how you defend Zach Edey, who's gonna shoot the ball the best from the outside, and number 3, rebounding.
3 point and look, you look at Alabama, what they did. I mean, they did what they wanted to do. They shot almost 50% from 3, but it still wasn't enough because UConn was able to kind of get that. They had a 9-0 run, and they ended up winning it, and now they're back to the championship game. So Purdue's going for their first title, and on the men's side, and while UConn is either their 7th or 8th, should they, of course, their first back to back. So. Should be a fun matchup, and people already whined about the start time. Look, they've been doing this literally since the end of time. It's not going to change anytime soon. So if you can't stay up, hey, look, that's on you. I'm just saying.
DVR.
Exactly. And of course, remember the championship game is on TBS this year, not CBS. It's on TBS. So it's going to be at 8:20 in Phoenix.
All right, Lakina, before we close out our number one, I'm going to get your take on breaking news that occurred last night. John Calipari from Kentucky, no more. He's going to the University of Arkansas, so he's jumping from one southern state to another. How did this all go down?
Yeah, it was. I thought it was an late April Fool's joke initially, because when I saw the tweet, I'm like, wait, seriously? He's leaving. He's going. Not only is he leaving, that's that, but he's going to one of your rivals. And apparently, this is according to some of the various folks. Apparently, he did not like the fact that there was some bad feelings in the situation there, and didn't have the lack of support. He didn't have the support. I think he felt he didn't feel like he could stay, so that's why he kind of jumped ship. And of course, Arkansas can't pay him money, so it'll be interesting to see. I guess the pressure is not as much at Arkansas. I know they won a championship back 30 years ago, a couple of days ago. With you got Coles Williamson, Sky Thurman, and that group led the way there. It'll be interesting to see what he does. I mean, I know that the pressure probably won't be as much. But I also want to know who takes over at Kentucky because, various names being thrown around. Nate Oates, who they got an $18 million buyout, so you're going to have to pay Alabama to, then to say adios to him. You got Sean Miller, might be a good fit. Brad Underwood. I mean, the pressure at Kentucky is going to be even, it's going to be 1,000 times worse than it is here in Illinois over down there in Champaign. I think like some people said Shaka Smart, which I doubt he's going to do that. I think another name is being flown around. Scott Drew, which I don't know if you're Scott Drew. I think why would you do that? But yeah, some of the names being thrown around are kind of interesting.
I think you need to bring on a big name because, like you said, Lakina, with a big time program like Kentucky, even though Calipari has brought that program one national championship throughout his coaching career there. You mentioned the pressure is 10 times greater than anywhere else. Maybe Duke and North Carolina can rival Kentucky, the pressure of Kentucky, but I think you need a big name coach that has been through the wars before that can handle that pressure. And that even though the fan base is crazy at times, I'll admit, but they demand excellence. And I know Calipari has been saying, my goal is to get the kids to the NBA. Yes, he can say that at Arkansas now because even though they have a rich basketball tradition, they don't have the championship pedigree like Kentucky does. And those fans down there in Lexington wanted him to do both. And outside of that one championship with Anthony Davis back in 2012, I believe, he hasn't succeeded at that doing both at the same time. So, in my opinion, you need to go get a big name guy that's been through the pressure, coach at a high level program, and of course the number one attribute in the game is recruiting. So. Kentucky is expected to compete at a high level. You need a big name coach to go get big time talent.
Nick Grote is another name that's being flown around. Oh, okay, that'll be fun. Okay, you're gonna want his butt out of there within 3 years. I doubt that, but well, you know what? To be continued, as I say, we'll keep you guys updated because I'm sure they'll look. Mitch Barnhart, the longtime AD over there at Kentucky, will have he'll definitely have his. I'm sure he has phone book, I should say, of names. So we'll see what happens with that.
A phone book? What is that?
Well, yeah. Oh yeah, the contact list, I should say. Okay, there you go. 21st century contact list.
Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead as you're listening to the Monday edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We got to get into the NBA and the Chicago Bulls. They still exist. Baseball. The Chicago Cubs take 2 out of 3 from the LA Dodgers. Well, the Sox go 0-4 in Kansas City. What a shock. And we'll have a special edition of Old School TV Monday, celebrating a special anniversary and a whole lot more. You stay right there. You're listening to Second City Sports, live in the living color, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
No, I don't know, though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it! Yes, sir!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports. We're live in the living color right here on Sports So Chicago, along with Miss Lakita McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keita McGee on the Twitter, X, like he was going to get in the IG.
We have less than 55 minutes left of this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago live and in living color 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on Roku TV.
Okay, so let's go to the diamond. As we'll start with the Cubs first. I talked about it with Mark earlier. The Cubs went 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers, including a very wet and rainy and cool Wrigley. And look, Seiya Suzuki, got to go in. Hab had a couple big hits. Dansby Swanson hit a home run coming off that long weather delay. So wanted to make sure to get that game in to make sure to ensure a win in that series. So very impressive for the Cubs. Mark said, they do have a tough West Coast road trip starting tonight. They're going to be facing 3 of the top teams out west, even though they're not all of them underachieved so far this year. But if you're a Cubs fan, you got to be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, as we talked about on Friday, Lakina, previewing this series against the Dodgers, of which they took 2 out of 3. We talked about when everybody's healthy, the Cubs offense can rival anybody in the National League with the exception of the Dodgers and the Atlanta Braves. The Dodgers, they were lucky to win that game. I don't want to say lucky, but they were pretty dominant on Saturday. Yosh Shirley was there. It was a kind of a pitcher's duel, and Max Muncy got the best of the Cubs on Saturday in that 6th inning, driving a couple RBI, which turned out to be the difference in that ball game. But the offense did come alive. We mentioned with Cody Bellinger and with Dansby Swanson. And let's talk about Friday's game, Lakina. The Dodgers took the lead twice, even though Cal Hendricks, the starting pitcher for the Cubs, to open that series, he was roughed up a couple of times. The Cubs did respond back, and that's how you like to see good teams. You win games when everything's not going your way. Like I mentioned last Saturday, the Cubs, their starting pitcher, Jordan Wicks, did not pitch badly, Lakina. It was just the offense was held down by Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who picked up his first career win in the Dodgers uniform in the Major League. So the Cubs offense, yes, you still got to be good pitching to get to where you want to go, but offensively, their bats did come alive. And on the flip side, they're starting pitching minus Kyle Hendricks' performance last Friday. Like I said, Jordan Wicks, it wasn't his fault that he lost the game for the Cubs on Saturday. He pitched his you-know-what off. And then Shota Imanaga what can you say more about this young rookie? I know it's been 2 starts, but he's pitched, I believe, uh, uh, 10 scoreless innings with 12 strikeouts and no walks.
Yeah,
That's very
0.
impressive.
Yeah, 0 ERA, and he struck out Otani too. I think I'm sure that's not going to go over well
Yeah.
in Japan, but I guess depending on how you look at it. Also, it's the Michael Busch revenge series. I guess remember he was a former Dodger. Of course, they got him in that trade. He had a bases clearing 3-run RBI that kind of broke that game open right before the first weather delay in that game. He also hit a home run, so definitely he definitely wanted to kind of stick to his former team. So he was a big part of that as well. So we'll interested to see how the Cubs do this because they got to play San Diego starting tonight. Then they play Arizona. Then they play Seattle. Well, I'll get to Seattle in a second. But but yeah, I mean, look, we're gonna see. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. I know Arizona. They kind of had their struggles. I think all three teams. Now the Padres are. And then of course Seattle hasn't been very good so far this year either. So the Cubs can have a chance to kind of try to at least just win the series. I don't know. Sweeping all three might be a little bit much, but they can win 2 out of 3 there, 2 out of 3 there. At least split the series is in Seattle. I think it'll be a successful West Coast trip.
Yeah, like you said, like a nice long win streak would help if you're the Chicago Cubs. But like you say, just take one series at a time, obviously, and I think they'll be okay. Like I said, we talked about with Mark in our last hour. Justin Steele is out. Jameson Taillon is out, and so like I said, your starting pitching minus Callum Hendricks that start last Friday to open up the series against the Dodgers. Your starting pitching has been excellent. It's just finally they took advantage. Part of it was because of the rain delay, but they finally was able to take advantage of a good starting pitching yesterday, and that's what you like to see from this team.
That's all I can ask for if you're a Cubs fan, despite all those injuries in the pitching front. Now your White Sox, Sid. I mean, they actually had a chance perhaps to maybe take a game in their series down there in Kansas City. But unfortunately, the bullpen gave up that lead, and now you get swept by the Royals. You're now 1-8. You scored, I think, 12 or 13 runs in those 8 games. Okay. Oh dear. And
yeah, to add insult to injury, you got a bullpen guy that was injured on Friday. Of course, Luis Robert Jr. If you heard John Striffin's call on NBC Sports Chicago, oh no. He said the right things on the air anyway. I know many White Sox fans said some few 4-letter words, and I'll leave that alone. But yeah, Luis Robert again injured his right hip flexor. The Sox said 10-day IL, but he's going to be out longer than that, 4 to 6 weeks. So hopefully it gets well with his recovery. Of course, you have Eloy Jimenez, who's already out. So the Sox struggle to score runs with those guys healthy. It's not those two guys' fault, but the way their roster is constructed, it was going to be tough to score runs consistently anyway. But this team, we talked about them being better defensively. I think they'll eventually happen by the end of the year. But right now, their defense stinks. Fletcher, the new right fielder, he had a ball bounce off his glove into over the fence over the weekend. Garrett Crochet actually pitched well yesterday, Lakina. It wasn't dominant, but it was well enough for the White Sox to win. As we said before, we'll probably say it a whole lot more, 1,000 more times throughout the season. Offense comes in little spurts for the White Sox, and that's not good. MJ Melendez killed the White Sox pitching over the weekend. In that 4-game series, Lakina, 3 home runs and 7 runs knocked in. He's been doing it to the Sox the last 2 years. He's picking up where he left off. He's starting off 2024 against the Sox.
Yeah, he loves playing the White Sox. Yeah, I saw that. So yeah, I'm sure for him it's too bad he can't play the Royals can't play the Sox more often because that's when he actually is best at. So
right.
Well, they look. It gets better for the White Sox. So they got to play the Guardians, who had a very nice weekend. Although unfortunately Shane Bieber is out for the year. So to have Tommy John, but it's kind of
they were talking about trading him. You cannot do it now.
Can't do it now. So it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. Now they did win their 2-game. Of course, the last game was called because of rain. It's kind of the same rain that we got here in Chicago yesterday, but they did win 2 out of 3 there on their Twins against the Twins. And look, so far, I mean, look, we'll see if we'll see if the pitching can kind of come back. Not having Bieber there, that's going to be a big loss for them. But look, I mean, they've done what they can and kind of the next man up. So we'll see if they can keep it up.
Yeah, let's go to the bigger picture in baseball, Lakina. Review some of the key weekend series that took place over the weekend. We'll start out in the AL West in the Battle of Texas. The Rangers take 2 out of 3 from the Astros. Romel Blanco almost pitched a no-hitter again yesterday, Lakina, but the Houston Astros survived, with a 3-1 win. Texas, we all know that they can bust out the big bats. I know that they have a couple of guys that are hurt right now offensively, but you still have Joelis Garcia, you still have Marcus Semien, and you still have Jonah Helm, and the Texas Rangers. They're going, if they stay healthy for the most part, they're going to be around for a while. And I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to repeat as World Series champions, but it's going to be a team that you have to be reckoned with. I don't think it's just a quote unquote 1 year thing.
Yeah, they block. We'll go back to block first for the Astros. The only pitcher in modern era to throw 15 plus innings and allowed no more than one hit. He had that one hitter on Saturday, and just a solid show so far. Kind of like no letdown from that no hitter he threw last Monday. So maybe things might be looking up for the Astros. We'll see about that. Now going my Mariners losing 2 out of 3 to the Brewers. They were close to winning that first game, and they couldn't get over the hump. They did win on Saturday, but they got their butts kicked 12-4 on Sunday. William Contreras, I should say. 2 home runs there for the Brewers to kind of take the rubber match of that series. But I'm still feeling hopeful. I mean, look, they're 4-6, but look, I don't think Texas is going to pull away from that division just yet. I think they can kind of, hopefully, they can figure it out. But that pitching needs to kind of get it going, and then they need to settle down.
Yeah, going now to the AL East, the Toronto Blue Jays lose 2 out of 3 to the New York Yankees. I know. The Blue Jays did shut out the Yankees last Friday in the Yankees home opener 3-0 right after the not so-called, but it was an earthquake a couple hours before the game. But the Yankees backs did wake up scoring 9 runs on Saturday and 8 yesterday. Looks like Aaron Judge is starting to come through. Juan Soto has made a big difference in that Yankees lineup so far, both at the plate and in the outfield. Lakino on the flip side for Toronto, as we talked about before, with the Mariners, we're going to talk about with this Toronto Blue Jays. Consistent starting pitching. They have the talent on offense. We're not going to give you the names. We all know them by now, but it's got to be the starting pitching. It's got to match what they do on offense.
I think that's been a problem the last couple of years. They've been trying, though. Gausman can only do so much by himself, and you wonder, like, that back end of that rotation, that's really going to be the key if they want to perhaps maybe challenge in that AL East and perhaps challenge the wild card spot. So they really need to get that going. So hopefully they can figure it out. You're still we're only about week 2 into the season. So I'm not freaking out just yet, but they need to figure it out pretty quick.
Staying in the AL East, the Baltimore Orioles, they're now 5-4 on the year. They lost a tough one with the last at bat on the road to the Pittsburgh Pirates yesterday by the score of 3-2. Pittsburgh's now 6-2 on the year. Baltimore is 8-2. I'm sorry. Pittsburgh is 8-2 on the year. Baltimore's 5-4. If you're a Baltimore fan, you're not too much worried about this. Yes, there was a couple of games that got away from you, but this is still a talented team, and that's going to be in it for the long haul, barring injuries.
Yeah, I think they're figuring out how to be the hunted now because they're no longer the hunters. People are not going to be gunning for them, so they got to get used to that. And look, as far as the Pirates are concerned, look, they went through this last year with the Pirates that they had that huge start. People thought, oh, maybe the Pirates figured it out, but but then so
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know Pirates fans are kind of relishing this 8-2 start. They got after the Dodgers, they had the best record in baseball. But let's slow down on that right now. And we saw this last year with the Pirates. Although look, their hitting's been really solid. So is their pitching, but I think they're gonna figure things out. I think they're gonna go down pretty quick. Stay there with the Brewers. I mean, but they got a new manager out there, and look, they've been really solid so far. We talk about William Contreras. But I just don't see them, hanging on there, for the long haul. And I know, Polanco's been really solid for them. Urias as well, Luis Urias, but I just don't see them hanging on there for up there. I think it's I think we'll see it about a month. Talk to me about it by Memorial Day. We'll see if these same 2 teams are going to be at the top of these divisions.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Let's say congratulations to the Oakland Athletics. They have one more win than the White Sox because they took 2 out of 3 from the Detroit Tigers on the road.
Woohoo!
Yesterday's score was 7-1 over the Tigers. Athletics won their first game of that series on last Saturday 4-0. They lost a tough one on Friday in Detroit's home opener. But Oakland, as we talked about, Lakina, their lack of talent right now, but they do not lack heart. They do not lack hustle, and that team is going to play hard. And shout out to Jenny Canavar. She's the new full-time voice for the Oakland Athletics. She's the first full-time female TV voice for a Major League Baseball team. Got a chance to listen to her some of the game over the weekend. She sounds great. I know she did work for the Colorado Rockies previously. I believe ESPN as well. So she's the new full-time TV voice of a Major League Baseball team, and she sounds great.
Yes, she does. She does days with Dallas braiding in that beard. I wish he would trim that beard, but that's he might to be a bit young, so I mean, shows an interesting experience for her. But yeah, I mean, look, Oakland. The one thing I'll say about Oakland is that the guys, the guys there don't give up. So they're gonna give you all they can handle. It's not gonna be an easy win for a lot of these instances. So Oakland's gonna, look, it's not their fault. All this has been going on behind the scenes. So that's they can worry about what's going on the field. So so their credit, they're actually not getting blown out by lately. I won't say. I know early on that they got blown out a couple of those games early on, but they actually settled down. So we'll see what happens. I mean, still their relocation's in flux, but they're doing what they can to kind of control what they can control on the field.
Okay. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakina hanging on here with you talking Major League Baseball. Let's go over to the NL East. The Atlanta Braves, they sweep away the defending National League champions, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Chris Hale had a nice performance yesterday in his home debut in the Atlanta Braves uniform. While the Philadelphia Phillies, they take 2 out of 3 from the Washington Nationals in our nation's capital. They lost the series finale 3-2 yesterday. Philadelphia is 4-5 on the year. It looks like Atlanta may run away with the NL East, but I don't want to sound like your typical Philadelphia sports fan. When you win, everything is great. When you lose, fire everybody. I'm not going to go that route, but I think Philadelphia's trying to find themselves right now, and I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, and also to remember, Spencer Strider is out for a while with that UCL tear in his elbow.
For the Braves, yeah, that is huge. Yeah,
that's huge for the Braves. That's why I would hold off on them, running away the division. I know they got a lot of depth in the pitching side, and we know they can hit all the guys. We know all the guys that can hit. Excuse me for the Braves, but I wouldn't say they're going to run away the division yet. So I think Philadelphia, if they can get it going and be cohesive both the offense and the defensive side, they can kind of be right there for the Braves. Like I said, I wouldn't say they're going to run away from that division just yet because Strider might be out to like late May, maybe early June, maybe even longer than that. So that's going to be interesting to see if that does become a deterrent that kind of catches up to them, that they're not going to have their ace there. So I wouldn't say the Braves are going to run away the division, not just yet.
Yeah, good point. We'll see what happens with the Spencer Strider injury. Let's say congratulations to another team in the NL East, the Miami Marlins. They finally got their first win of the year yesterday, avoiding being swept by the St. Louis Cardinals. And with the Tampa Bay Rays and the Colorado Rockies, they did battle in the Rocky Mountains high state, no pun intended, of Colorado over the weekend. The Rays took 2 out of 3 from the terrible Rockies, win the final 2 games at Coors Field.
Yeah, I think they really definitely needed that series. So we'll just see if they can kind of, maybe this will be a start or something. They can get something going here.
Yeah, with the San Francisco series, the Giants take 2 out of 3 from the San Diego Padres. Former White Sox player Dylan Cease, who's starting for the Padres, lost the series opener last Friday. The Giants trying to rebound nicely, and they did after being swept by the Dodgers in LA last week. They take 2 out of 3 for the Padres.
Yeah, and I think we just see they didn't gain a lot of ground, neither the Padres nor the Giants. So, with the Dodgers losing 2 out of 3, and here in Chicago to the Cubs, you wonder, So Padres, you wonder, we'll see what happens in that Cubs series, coming up starting tonight. But it's gonna get a little bit interesting because if especially with the Diamondbacks, they didn't have a good weekend. So if those 3, I'm talking about the Padres, the Diamondbacks, and the Giants, will figure it out. The Dodgers are gonna run away with the NL West.
Here's 2 teams they started out the season very quietly, the Boston Red Sox and the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Boston continuing their West Coast road trip after winning the series in Seattle. They win the series at LA over the weekend, taking 2 out of 3.
Yeah, we see the Red Sox can make some headway here because they've been right there. They were right there till the end last year, right there in the wild card spot, but then kind of like took a little bit of a nosedive those last couple of weeks. So we'll see if they can get it going here. I think look, Devers is gonna have to get it going with the hitting, and the pitching's gotta stay consistent. So we'll see the Red Sox can kind of be right there with the Orioles and the Yankees and the Blue Jays and the Rays for that AL East.
And the New York Mets, a team that's in flux just like the White Sox, although they have a little bit more talent than the White Sox. They take 2 out of 3 in Cincinnati, winning the series finale yesterday 3-1.
Yeah, I think that really needed that series win. They're back to being 3-6. Maybe this will be a start of something. Starts to get something going here for them.
Yeah, so that's your series recap from over this past weekend in Major League Baseball. We'll get into the schedule right now, the games that are taking place tonight and throughout the week, throughout this upcoming week, rather. Of course, on ESPN Plus today at 4:10 Chicago time, you'll see the Cleveland Guardians in their home opener taking on the White Sox.
Yay.
Of course, the other games that will follow the series that are starting tonight. You have the Miami Marlins visiting New York to take on the Yankees. Detroit and Pittsburgh, 2 surprising teams in baseball. We'll see if Pittsburgh's hot start will continue. Milwaukee will visit Cincinnati. Seattle will visit Toronto. That's going to be an interesting series. You'll have the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves tonight. The first game will be on MLB Network tonight at 6 p.m. It's a special anniversary for that game. We'll tell you about it later in the program. Other series that are taking place starting tonight, the Dodgers continue their East Coast road trip. They'll visit Minnesota to take on the Twins. Philadelphia's at St. Louis. Houston and the Rangers will finish a weird wraparound 4-game series. How did that come about? I don't know. The Arizona Diamondbacks will take on the terrible Rockies. Tampa Bay will continue their West Coast road trip. They'll visit Anaheim. Of course, you mentioned the Cubs and the Padres. And the Washington Nationals will play the San Francisco Giants. All those series starts tonight.
Just a warning to the Twins. The Dodgers might not be in a very good mood, so we'll be interested to see what happens in that series. Baltimore and Boston, they start tomorrow. That should be a fun series there. Just trying to make sure I don't double talk as Sid. Philadelphia and St. Louis, they start their series tomorrow. And Oakland and Texas, they start their series tomorrow as well. Just want to make sure I don't miss anybody. I think I got. Houston faces Kansas City starting tomorrow.
Okay, and your schedule for Thursday looks like this. Atlanta will host the New York Mets. The Twins will take on the Tigers, the Reds, and the Brewers. And, of course, Athletic, Oakland, and the Texas Rangers will do battle. Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, the battle of Pennsylvania. And the showcase game on MLB Network on Thursday at 6 p.m. Chicago time will have the series finale between Baltimore and Boston.
Yep.
Yeah.
And also, too, a quick note tomorrow, that second game of the 3-gamer with the Padres and the Cubs. They host the Cubs. That'll be on TBS at 9:05.
And that's your schedule for the world of MLB for this upcoming week.
Okay, Sid, let's take a quick break. Of course, we got to talk some NBA as the playoff push is getting a little bit clearer, even though the Bulls lost to the Magic. Oh, boy. Some other news as well, of course, and a special edition of Old School TV Monday. So a lot to do still as we wrap things up here. Lakita McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports, on Sports of Chicago. More talk as we wrap things up coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. It's the Monday edition. This is our last break of the show for today. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kid McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kids Coming in the IG.
As I mentioned, this is our last break for the show for today. So if you have any last minute questions or comments, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
Okay, so we're going to have to do this a little bit of rapid fire style here as the NBA is going down to the wire as playoff spots are being clinched and the Bulls lose to the Magic again. Yay! Whoop-de-doo. Of course, no, but no Caruso. Of course, he was banged up with that ankle injury. But and of course, Kobe White kind of tell he's still having an effect. But unfortunately, the Magic have had their number, so we'll save ourselves the voice and save you guys the trouble of having to listen to us talk some Bulls. So let's talk about the rest of the NBA, if you will, this weekend, Sid, because of course, like I said, playoff spots are tickets are being punched. So anything else kind of caught your eye this weekend in the NBA?
Yeah, just one more quick thing about the Bulls. They did beat the Knicks last Friday at the UC.
Of course,
one away to 100. They do play the Knicks again next Sunday at MSG for the regular season finale. That game may not mean anything to both teams, but we shall see. Just a reminder, the NBA has the night off tonight because of the men's college basketball championship game between UConn and Purdue. Just make a note of that. But some of the games that caught my eye yesterday, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they got back at the Lakers, beating them at the stadium known as formerly as Staples Center, 127-117. The Philadelphia 76ers had to take an effort in overtime, but they get it done, coming back from double digits to beat the San Antonio Spurs, 133-126. Tyrese Maxey, a career-high 52 points.
Yeah, and they're really going to need him if they want to go far in the playoffs because they're right at the edges of the play-in right now. They now have gone out to 7. They actually are a game and a half back of the 6th spot. So if these days get a little bit weird this last week of the season, they may sneak into that top 6. So we'll see what happens, especially after what happened with Cleveland last night as Paul George just went nuts. I think they were down by as many as like 17 or 18. and I think Paul George scored like 26 points, including the game winner in the fourth quarter. That's how the Clippers were able to beat the Cavs. So yeah,
Yeah, not a good weekend for Cleveland. 0 for 2 in LA.
yeah, this could be a loss that comes back to bite them in the butt. So yeah, yikes.
Yeah, we talked about the Los Angeles Clippers. I know that Kawhi Leonard has missed the last few games. I know Russell Westbrook is back, but like we said before, it all starts and ends with Paul George. He's actually been stepping up to the challenge. You mentioned he had the game winner yesterday. James Harden is knowing his role. He doesn't have to do too much. And remember, Paul George said a couple weeks ago, Lakina, this team does not have an identity. I don't know if he said that to wake the team up, but ever since that comment, they've woken up.
They have. They've won. They've beaten the Nuggets. They've beaten the Lakers. They've also now had a good comeback against the Cavs after being down big at halftime. So yeah, I think look, you gotta be looking pretty good if you're the Clippers right now because you want to try to get that number 4 spot so that you can have home court. So you definitely want to keep it up there as well. Nuggets had a nice weekend. They had no trouble with Atlanta beating them by 32 points. The Lakers, you remember LeBron did not play that game because he had the flu, though the Lakers did beat the Cavs, speaking of the Cavs, pretty handily. So, like I said, not a good weekend if you're a Cavs fan. But, like I said, we're going to like the last few games of the season. So, yeah, you got to get going there. Dallas beat Golden State. This is Friday's games I'm talking about now. Phoenix held off Minnesota by 10. And of course, the Clippers also had a really good weekend. They had no trouble with the Jazz. They took care of them as well. Boston edged out Sacramento. That was an interesting game to say the least. And Indiana got a nice big win against OKC.
Yeah, Oklahoma City have a little bit of a speed bump right now. So they're trying to finish as a top seed in the Western Conference. They're battling Denver and Minnesota to get that top seed. A couple other scores from yesterday I want to talk about. The Warriors get back on track to beat the Utah Jazz 118-100. And the New York Knicks beat the Milwaukee Bucks 122-109. As we talked about last Friday, Lakina, no Julius Randle for the upcoming playoffs for the New York Knicks. Mitchell Robinson, it looks like he's returned to the lineup now for the last week or so. OJ Anunoby, will you get him back? I'm not sure, but we kind of know who the Knicks are going into the playoffs. It looks like they may face Orlando, which I think is going to be a tougher series now since Julius Randle's not going to be there. But I want to get your take on the flip side, the Milwaukee Bucks. We talked about them when they got Doc Rivers prior to the All-Star break. You see potential within this group. We said that it wasn't going to be easy, but you at least play consistently on defense going into the playoffs. Right now, I'm not going to say the ship has sailed, but if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan right now, the way that they have been playing lately, what have you seen from this group that gives you confidence going into the playoffs?
You're Adrian Griffin. I don't know. He's too classy for this. I'm sure he's probably laughing his head off. Like, so yeah, they got rid of me, and yet they said I was a problem. Okay, but yeah, I mean they've only won like 15 games since Doc has taken over. I think they're like under 500 since he's taken over, or just like barely above. So that's been a big problem for Milwaukee. And should they? It all depends on who comes out of those play-ins, especially if the Sixers are like only a game back in that 6th spot behind Indiana. They're 2 games back of Cleveland, so a lot can still happen in these next 4 or 5 games. And yeah, some cases I think they have 3 games left for some of them. So it's really gonna be seesawing back and forth. So we'll see. I mean, look, Philadelphia's trying to make that move and so they can sneak into that main draw. So if they have to face maybe Indiana or even a Cleveland or Miami or God forbid the Bulls, so.
I'll leave it at that. Going back to the Western Conference, the New Orleans Pelicans, they beat the Suns on the road yesterday, 113-105. Lakina, I told you I like this New Orleans Pelicans team. I know I watched them one of their games last week. They lost at home to Orlando, but I still like this Pelicans team. I don't know if they're going to get home court in their first round series against the Clippers. Assuming that the Clippers healthy is going to be tough, but I think New Orleans can give the Clippers a series.
Well, remember, as of right now, they're still in that 7th spot in the play-in. So remember, the Suns have the tiebreaker. They did beat them. They got a big win against them yesterday, but they got that tiebreaker. But the Suns do. So they can still they're gonna have a lot of work to do to kind of get out of that play-in. So the Clippers, gonna be interesting to see if they'll. Right now, it'll be Clippers and Dallas, which should be a fun would be a fun series. And OKC would face the Suns as of right now, so it's going to be interesting to see how all the kind of like plays out with some of the top two, which are as of right now the Timberwolves and the Nuggets. So lots of still be to figure out in some of these playoff spots, especially.
Yeah, let's stay with that Western Conference, Lakina, and go into the playing situation. You mentioned New Orleans at number 7, Sacramento 8, Lakers 9, Golden State 10. I know Phoenix has stumbled here a little bit lately. They've been on a high streak for the last couple of weeks, but if you're the Lakers or definitely the Warriors, you definitely do not want to face the Phoenix Suns in that first. I think 7 and 8 will face each other, 9 and 10 will face each other. But let's just say if Phoenix finishes 7th, if you're Sacramento, you're in a lot of trouble facing Phoenix because you only need to win one game to qualify for the playoffs to be the number 7 seed.
Yeah, Phoenix has a very tough schedule. They got to play the the Clippers, I should say, back to back this week, and also too they got Sacramento and Minnesota, so they got a pretty tough schedule to finish up their season. And let me go to the Kings schedule real quick. I know they got a pretty tough schedule themselves. Let me see if I can get it up here real quick. This thing doesn't want to cooperate. They do play. They play. They play the Thunder tomorrow, and then they play the Pelicans. And of course, they play Phoenix and they play the Trailblazers. So they got somewhat of a little bit of an easier schedule. They still got the Thunder and the Pelicans. So both these, it's really going to depend on who wants to have that seeding because it's really going to come down to the positioning, especially. You don't want to have to. You want to stay out of that play-in tournament.
Yeah, you think of that last game of the year for Sacramento? You said it was against Portland, correct?
Yep. So we'll see where they're at by then.
You think that game is a gimme game, but you got to take care of business against your next 3 opponents first before you even thinking about resting guys, things along that nature. But the Los Angeles Lakers and Golden State looks like those two teams will play. I know Commissioner Adam Silver, deep down, he really doesn't want this because you want both those teams already in the playoffs. But as we saw a couple of years ago in 2021, LeBron beat Steph. Of course, that Warriors team was injured and different back then, and the Lakers were defending champions. Then they qualified for the playoffs before they lost to Phoenix in that opening round. But it looks like it's going to be a clash of the Titans between LeBron and Steph at least one more time. Who would you give the advantage to right now if you saw those two teams meeting the play-in?
If you're asking me right now, this second, I probably would say the Lakers because you actually depend on their supporting cast more than you do the Warriors because you never know which Warriors supporting cast are going to show up. So, it's going to be interesting to see if when they decide. If I'm sure Adam was like probably the last thing he wants, but it was like that's going to be the case. So it's really going to depend. Like it could be whoever has the ball last could win that game. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, especially what the Warriors have been through this year with the Draymond Green suspension, all the injuries. It's pretty remarkable at this point where they're at right now. And of course, the Lakers, they mentioned LeBron's. I know you said he was out because of the flu, but they mentioned his ankle injury. Anthony Davis has played the majority of the games this year. So has LeBron to a lesser extent. But for the Lakers, they get some of their key guys back in. Hopefully, the role players are Achimura and also Reeves both step up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Could be very interesting to see what happens there. But it'll be interesting to see with that coming up. Going through the schedule real quick as they're finishing up their seasons. Tomorrow, of course, like I said, no games Monday because of the championship game. They've been doing that since the 80s, folks. So stop whining. And they're just mad because they don't have nothing to gamble on tonight other than the men's game, but whatever. Dallas
draw the line.
Exactly. Dallas and Charlotte at 6. Detroit and Philadelphia. Could be a trap game, perhaps, maybe for the Sixers. Indiana and Toronto. Miami and Atlanta. Boston and Milwaukee. Of course, that's going to be the first game of the TNT Tuesday doubleheader. Chicago, of course, the Bulls host the Knicks. We'll see what happens there. I'm not repeating myself. They did play whatever, but Orlando and Houston. Memphis, they host San Antonio. Washington and Minnesota. Sacramento and OKC. That should be a fun one. Denver and Utah. Speaking of the Lakers and the Warriors, they face each other again in that TNT doubleheader. We'll see if LeBron's feeling better to play in that game tomorrow.
I'm
And the
sure he
Clippers,
will.
yeah, the Clippers and the Suns. I wonder why that wasn't the second game, but whatever. I digress. And the Pelicans and the Trailblazers also at 9 o'clock tomorrow.
Your schedule for Wednesday looks like this. We have Memphis at Cleveland, Charlotte at Atlanta, Toronto at Brooklyn, Dallas at Miami, the first game of that Wednesday night doubleheader on ESPN, the rematch of the 06 and 2011 NBA Finals contest. Orlando at Milwaukee, San Antonio at OKC. The second half of that Wednesday night doubleheader on ESPN will feature Minnesota at Denver. The Suns will visit the Clippers to round out the Wednesday night schedule.
Thursday, you have the Bulls. They face Detroit at 6. Knicks and Boston, the first game of that Thursday doubleheader on TNT. Houston in Utah, Golden State in Portland, and the Kings host the Pelicans in the second game that 9 o'clock doubleheader for Thursday on TNT.
And that's your schedule for the National Basketball Association for the last full week of the NBA's regular season.
This is Second City Sports on Sports with Chicago, Lakina McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Now, the Naismith Basketball Hall of Famers have been were announced over the weekend. Chauncey Billups and Vince Carter get ready to feel old, folks. They're laid the way for this year's class. All were really accomplished. Of course, Vince Carter was a standout over at North Carolina, had a great NBA career. Won a slam dunk championship in 2000. Chauncey Billups has a Finals MVP to his credit. Had a great career over at the University of Colorado. Among some of the others, Doug Collins, Simone Augustus, who is a former member of LSU, played with Sylvia Fowles. They didn't win a championship, but she is a 2-time Player of the Year. And I think she did win a couple of WNBA titles, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Michael Cooper finally, gets in, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, because he probably should have been in, but again, that's another conversation. Of course, play with Magic Johnson, James Worthy, and the rest of that group in the 80s. Lakers Showtime teams. Former Wisconsin head coach Dick Bennett, love him. Charles Smith. Now that's not the Charles Smith that played in the NBA. This is a different Charles Smith who has 9 titles in the high school level for I forgot the name of the school, but in Louisiana, actually has been there 50 years as a teacher, as a coach. They actually just won another state championship just a few weeks ago. So congrats to him. Of course, late great Walter Davis, who died last year. We talked about that, Sid. And of course, also as a contributor, Jerry West and Doug Collins as well.
Yeah, congratulations to all the nominees for the 2024 Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. Not the NBA, folks. It's basketball. So Lakina talk about your high school, college, and of course your pro and international career. Vince Carter, need I say more? He was the mainstream version of Michael Jordan, following Michael Jordan's second retirement from the Chicago Bulls. He brought basketball to Canada and took the NBA to a whole nother level. At that time, it was him, Allen Iverson, and the late, great Kobe Bryant. He helped usher that new era after Michael Jordan from the late 90s into the early 2000s. And of course, Chauncey Billups, as you mentioned, his accomplishments there. And I want to talk about Doug Collins for a minute, Lakina. I'll be honest with you. He was a very good coach. He was his first head coach, and a good job here in Chicago. Of course, he gets the credit to bring the Bulls to almost at championship level. Of course, we all know what Phil Jackson, one of his assistants, did after that. But Doug Collins was a great contributor to the game of basketball. Of course, he had a hell of a career at Illinois State and had a heck of a career broadcasting with Turner Sports, NBC, CBS, which he started out before he coached the Bulls, for those of you that don't know. And he did ESPN for the last couple of years before he coached the Philadelphia 76ers some 15 years ago. So I'm glad he's finally getting his due. Hopefully he'll have some hair left when he goes into the Hall of Fame. I'm interested to see who's going to do his introductory speech. Me personally, I wish it was Michael Jordan. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I would like to see Mike say a few words introducing Doug Collins. That's just me.
Yeah, I think you'll probably see Michael and Scotty present him, and I think there was never any animosity. I think it was just a business thing. So I don't think for what Coach Collins said, it wasn't there was really
Mike
nothing
did
last
bring him
season.
back when he would play for the Wizards. So
Yeah, so I think that there was no animosity there either. I mean, look, I think it's good to see he's getting his due because I think he's already in the Hall of Fame because he was part of that 1972 men's Olympic basketball team. We won't go into the specifics of it.
no gold medal for him. He doesn't want it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no. He doesn't want that silver medal. They still have that actually in the IOC, but still after 50 years, I'm sure they haven't. I'm sure they got it in a vault somewhere. But yeah, I mean, like he's done a great communications there. With the be the television, the coach. So I think it's finally getting his due there. Jerry West, I think this is his third time going to the Hall of Fame. He always is a player and as a as an exec. Now he's going as a contributor. So like wait, well, whatever. But I digress. But but yeah, I mean, look, I think these are all very worthy. Like I said, it's good to see Walter Davis finally getting in. He's one of the highest. Had the scoring title for the Suns before. You saw Booker and also too Charles Barkley when he joined. So he was kind of like finally getting his due now, I think, which is great to see. Of course, we talk about Charles Smith and his great accomplishments at I got the high school where he coached at, Sid. It's just outside New Orleans, and
okay.
Charles Smith, it's good to see. You saw, he's been doing this for years. I think he was been at that school since he was a kid. So this is since he was like in his 20s. I think he met his wife there at Peabody Merritt High School, which is a Catholic school just outside New Orleans. So good to see him getting his due too. So I like to see like the team that the people that probably don't get a lot of credit, mainstream get some mainstream credit. He looks great. He's still a coach. Like I say, just won another state championship down there in Louisiana. So good for him. And it's good to see Simone Augustus. I know she's kind of kept a low profile, but she still is around at LSU. I think she does television for LSU if I'm not mistaken. So it's good to see her getting her due as well.
Before we close out, look, I know we still have a few minutes left, but who's the head coach? I know people going to kill me in the comments, but the former head coach of the Lady Marshall girls basketball team here in Chicago.
Dorothy Gators.
Yeah, why is she in the Basketball Hall of Fame?
I thought she was already. Maybe she's not. I don't know, but that's a good question. Yeah, it's a little odd that she's not on there.
Dorothy Gators, yeah. Why is she in there? If she's in there, I apologize, but I don't think she's in there.
But I thought she was. I don't think she is. But yeah, it's unfortunate she's not on there. Maybe having Coach Smith in, well, maybe it'll pave the way for her because I think she just retired a few years ago. Mm-hmm. So either you guys still be active or retired. I know, like I said, I know Coach Smith is still coaching there at Peabody. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a little bit weird that she's in on there, but I'm sure it's good. If you lead the charts, I'm sure they'll be listening down over there in Massachusetts.
Hopefully they can get that done and get that done soon. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Lakina hanging out here with you before we get to our special edition of Old School TV Monday. The Blackhawks, Lakina. For those of you that missed, you can go to NBC Sports Chicago's YouTube page. You can catch the entire broadcast of Tommy Hawk's birthday. It was the contest between the Dallas Stars and the Chicago Blackhawks, live cartoon animation style. And Lakina, I had the chance to catch some of that when I got home from the Dodgers-Cubs game on Saturday. Mm-hmm. Very impressive. Very impressive.
It was weird seeing all those guys. It was weird seeing Connor Bedard and Seth Jones and all those guys in animation. I mean, that was a little bit weird, but it's cool virtual reality. I saw a little bit of that than the actual game in regular reality. So, of course, the Hawks did play pretty well there. They won that game. It was nice that the guy went for Mr. Tommy Hawk's birthday. Now, unfortunately, yesterday they lost. They got shut out by the Wild, unfortunately. But what else can you do? But yeah, it was a really great show, and hopefully they'll be doing this at least once a year because I think it's a great way to get more, especially if you want to get like younger people to watch hockey. Yeah. This might be a great way to do it, and I think hopefully they do this in the NHL. I know they had on the NHL Network as well. They stream it there. And I think they did pretty well ratings-wise. So hopefully this will be something that they do regularly, and hopefully they promote it more.
Yeah, hopefully it'll catch on. Like you said, I'm sure they're going to do it next year. Next year, I'm talking about the Blackhawks, whoever is going to carry the games, whether it's NBC Sports Chicago or some other outlet. But like you said, it's going to attract trying to attract younger fans to watch the game of hockey. And if this becomes successful over the next few years, I would like to see the NHL do at least one game of that for the Stanley Cup playoffs. I know it's not going to happen this year, but I like to see them do at least one playoff game in animation. They'll be nice.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see Kenny Albert and Sean McDonough doing animation. That should be. I don't know if they probably wouldn't be into that, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. It was a pretty cool
Or
experience.
Bucci, John Bucci-Gross.
Oh yeah, Bucci. You know, Bucci will be up for it. You know, he'll do it. So he'll be up for it. So yeah, maybe that'll be the case. Who knows? Now, before we go into old school TV Monday, say real quick. Now, we talked about John Calipari leaving Kentucky, going to Arkansas. Some people are saying that, I know some Bulls fans might be wishful thinking on their part, but some people are saying that maybe Billy Donovan should consider going back to
I
college.
saw that name. I got my television locked in right now on Sports Center. I'm like, I know stranger things have happened, but I know Billy Donovan got that contract extension, I believe, last year, Lakina.
Yep.
Unless there's a major turnover of this roster for the Chicago Bulls, which is very possible, but highly unlikely. I think you'll see a couple pieces go, but because of the salary cap, but I don't think you're going to see a complete teardown. Unless a complete teardown happens, I don't see Billy Donovan leaving the Bulls. I don't.
And plus, with the way the landscape has changed a lot, I think he probably would have left already to go back to college if that's what he wanted to do. Especially with the NILs and all that. I know
Transfer portal.
Exactly, and you know he did coach at Kentucky for a little bit with Rick Pitino. He's not going back to Kentucky, folks. So for anybody who wanted to see him back there, that's not happening. I think he's perfectly happy over at St. John's. But yeah, I don't think that's going to happen either. I know Bob Myers is a name that people want, to perhaps maybe boot it for an officer Bulls, getting rid of A.K. Eversley. I don't think that's going to happen either. But I'm sure a lot of Bulls fans are doing a lot of wishful thinking.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with that. All right, Lakina, around this time, every Monday we do Old School TV Monday. Today, we celebrate the life and the legacy of the late, great Harry Hank Aaron. Of course, he passed away 3 years ago. He was the MLB's career home run leader with 755. Of course, Barry Bonds obliterated that record in 2007. But Lakina, I did watch this program. Didn't know this existed. It's called Hank Aaron Chasing the Dream. It was a TV special that aired on TBS back in 1995, prior to the Atlanta Braves winning the World Series that year for the first time in their franchise history. You can look it up here on YouTube, folks. Just type in Hank Aaron Chasing the Dream. It was a 2-hour special that dealt with his life story. A lot of traumatization in that film, but the people who appeared in that film was both of his parents, his childhood friends, at the time current MLB players such as David Justice, Frank Thomas, Barry Bonds, and of course Reverend Jesse Jackson, and some of the Andrew Young, the former mayor of Atlanta from back in the 80s, appeared in the film as well. And they just gave a synopsis of how he grew up, how he went through the minor leagues, both in Jacksonville and Indianapolis, before he got called up to play for the Milwaukee Braves, not the Atlanta Braves. They went to Atlanta in 1966, but he played with the Milwaukee Braves, of course, the Atlanta Braves, of course, his last 2 years in Milwaukee for the Brewers, of course. And they also detailed his life up to that point of him trying to make change for Major League Baseball to get more African Americans, not just in managerial positions on the field, but also being baseball officials in front offices off the field.
Yeah, I remember watching that documentary that you mentioned, Sid, and yeah, it was really interesting to see a lot of stuff that we didn't know too much about. I mean, you saw he actually saved all the letters that he got, all the racism, all the racial slurs and N words and all that he had to deal with as he got closer and closer to Babe Ruth's mark, and the fact that he was able to kind of he's able to stayed calm and didn't freak out too much. And I know some of his teammates were very worried for him, but he said, look, unfortunately he didn't want to play in the South when he first got drafted because also what's happening down there, there was still segregation. Unfortunately there were folks being lynched, sadly, and the Green Book kind of of course we all remember the Green Book, the Oscar winning film there that kind of helped him, say, okay, I can stay in these hotels and whatnot. That way he couldn't stay to stay hotels as his teammates back then, unfortunately, when they went to the South. So now, as we talked about the actual 50th, today's the 50th anniversary of him breaking that mark by Babe Ruth. Al Downing, who pitched that number 715 to him. They actually did an interview with him recently, and he's still living. He's lived out in Los Angeles because he played for the Dodgers. He said, look, he's kind of made peace with it. He knows that look, he doesn't mind answering a question about it. I know he was a little bit miffed about that, initially, but he says he's a part of history. So if you guys get a chance, they did an interview on him a couple of weeks ago, like a week ago, or maybe a few days ago. Check that out. Like I said, he's still living. He's retired now, and he's actually made peace with it. But to see those two white guys, that's the image that kind of like sticks to me, because I don't remember my mom when she saw the replay. Oh my God, I hope those guys are going to try to attack him. I guess the one gave him a pat on the shoulder and such. I guess they kind of the security kind of like took him out.
Yeah, those two are in the documentary, by the way.
Yeah, they actually interviewed. I think they're both still living, if I'm not mistaken. I think they're both still
Mm-hmm.
living, but yeah, I mean, they actually became friends, oddly enough. Go figure with that. But up until Hank's death a couple years ago. But just a part of baseball and also sports history too.
Yes, and no notable figures in that game. Lakina, celebrities that were that attended that game. Of course, Sammy Davis Jr. and Red Fox. The Dodgers left fielder was Bill Buckner.
Yes.
And the one who caught the ball in the bullpen for the Braves was Tom House. You saw the film. He rushed to home plate out of the bullpen gate to give Hank Aaron the baseball. Of course, Hank Aaron was greeted by both his parents, and great call by Vince Scully. Even though he passed away a couple years ago, he was doing the game for NBC at the time. NBC followed Hank Aaron around, and he said, and I quote, paraphrase a little bit. It's nice to see a black man get a standing ovation in the deep South. It's a great moment for Atlanta, the state of Georgia, the United States, and for the game of baseball.
Yeah, I remember when he said that, and hearing that when he said it, it's just like it kind of gets you chills, because at that time in 1974, that wasn't happening in the South, so that was a rarity back then.
And also, too, remember, Lakina, back in '74, the first series the Atlanta Braves opened up in Cincinnati. Hank Aaron didn't want to play in that series because of all the pressure and the things along that line. The commissioner at the time said he had to play at least two out of 3 games in Cincinnati because fans were coming to see him try to break the record. Of course, Hank Aaron hit home run number 714. I think it was on opening day of that series. So, of course, he hit
I think you're right.
715 50 years ago tonight.
Yeah, so it was actually pretty cool, and I know MLB just did a clip about. I wish we had a clip about it, but it's on YouTube. They have the whole game actually on YouTube, the whole replay of the game, and I'm sure they're going to show it on MLB Network. I'm sure today, so and I'm sure going to talk about it as well. So this is the golden anniversary of that, but I know some people say that he's still the home run king, all that other stuff aside, but at least for this case, I think it was a big thing to happen, and I believe, and I think Babe Ruth's, I think grandkids were there, if I'm not mistaken. I think they were there. I think somebody was there. But yeah, I mean, but even still, I mean, a really great accomplishment by it was still a very beloved figure even after all that. He did everything he could to try to grow the sport among African Americans. I mean, there were a lot of African Americans that played baseball during that time, and unfortunately, that number has since diminished.
Yeah, like I say, it was more than then than it is now.
It's interesting to see what. I'm sure he probably would not be very happy about the state of baseball in the African American communities right now. So, but that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah. So we salute. Just another footnote, Lakina, on the documentary. One of the executive producers, which I didn't know until I saw the end, Denzel Washington, Academy Award winner.
Yeah. I remember he said that was one of his best non-acting jobs. I remember that he really put his heart and soul into that, because he's a big baseball fan. So when he was asked to help executive produce this doc, he said that was probably his best project outside the filming.
They did they get a heck of a job. So for this special edition of Old School TV Monday, we salute the TBS 1995 documentary Jason the Dream, Hank Aaron. Look it up, please, on YouTube today.
All right, so follow at Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, and Keenan's going to be on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Download that Sports Zone Chicago app. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast, WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including our iHeartRadio app. But while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, we want to thank our buddy Mark Grote from 6-7 to Score for talking Bears and NFL draft. It's going to be interesting next couple of weeks, Sid, as we get closer and closer to the draft up in the Motor City.
And programming, catch a special edition of MLB tonight at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on Sports Zone. On MLB Network. They'll have a special of the 50th anniversary of Hank Aaron's home run number 715 tonight, and followed by the contest between the Atlanta Braves and the New York Mets, a special pregame ceremony before that game tonight. So catch it all on MLB Network starting at 4 p.m. today on MLB Network.
I think the Braves were probably, even though it was the Milwaukee Braves that when he wasn't in Atlanta, they weren't in Atlanta yet. But it's nice that they're doing that for him. So that's really sweet. I'm sure his kids and his grandkids are going to be there. That's part of that. So I think that should be a really nice ceremony here. Now you can catch Sports in Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV. Of course, if you have the Roku TV app, whatever device you got, just go to the Play Store you use, type in Sports in Chicago, catch our show, The Smoke Fellas, What's Up, Cuz, and so much more. It's all right there for you.
And we will provide.
Of course, enjoy the national championship game, everybody. And of course, the rest of the NBA regular season as we get closer and closer towards the start of the playoffs. It's Masters Week, Sam. We're going to be talking about that on Friday as well. And so much more on Friday. So, the eclipse is going on right now as we speak. So, stay indoors for the next few minutes, folks. So, not just to look at the sun. You know those folks out there. So come on, you know those folks out there.
Yep.
Those knuckleheads. But so even so, wait till it's after it's over. You still got about another 10 minutes, I think. So wait the 10 minutes, then you can go about your day. For Sid on the Kansas Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago, and we'll see you Friday. Stay safe out there, folks.
Hello, Eclipse. Holla.
Oh my gosh.